Rebound. Bearcats have upset the number 5 ranked parents of Whitworth University. Out to Eagle Smith. 2 ball or 3. Given 3. It's stolen away by Watts. He'll take it up and lay it up and down, and Watts extends the lead.
Bearcat Hoop, Where Are They Now? Interview series, taking a slight detour and a change of direction this week. We're going with a Where Were You Then interview with two of our to-be graduating in a couple days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Jordan Jenkins, Trent Callan, class of 2019. You guys most recently saw them balling out on the court for us this year. 4-year guys for us, co-captains this year along with CJ Walker. But they're here to tell a tale of an adventure they took with me a couple weeks ago down to Atlanta, Georgia, that I think is a really important and interesting story to hear out of their perspective, along with mine, when the three of us were invited down to Atlanta by the NCAA to participate in the 2019 Inclusion and Diversity Forum over 2 days. We left on a Thursday. We were down there Friday, Saturday. Jordan and I were actually on a panel as presenters there. Trent was one of the reasons we even got to be on the panel. So we're going to unpack the whole trip on this. But first, fellas, Scoops, you start first. How are you? Like, what is left before you get a walk across for the bachelor's? What's left for you? Anything? Or are you just hanging out playing hearts? What are you doing?
A lot of Fortnite first. I have 2 finals left. One in finance, one in operations, and then once I'm done with that, thesis is turned in. All my other classes are done. So,
is it like a stress relief? Or was there stress at all? Where it's kind
of? I mean, not really stressful. My grades are good enough that I could kind of bomb my finals and still be okay.
Gotcha.
So,
TC, what do you got?
I have 1 final left on Thursday, and that's pretty much it. I finished my thesis and just chilling after that.
Give them a quick synopsis, because I know you told me this on the trip. What the thesis in computer science is a little different. You're doing like an app.
Yeah, so the first semester is a half credit class, and you're writing doing research and like figuring out what project you want to do and writing the essay, and the second semester is actually implementing that and coding it.
And yours is?
And mine was a iOS app that displayed like data from the Northwest Conference website.
So you could have more quickly found your own stats after games rather than waiting for mine?
Yeah.
Are the families coming? What's the plan for? Because it's Sunday, yes?
Next
Sunday. Next Sunday.
Yeah.
Everybody coming in, coming down?
Yep.
Yeah, I have a ton of people. We're gonna try to throw together a little barbecue. We'll see.
Nice. I think we have 35 people in
our
little house, so we'll see.
How can you make that happen?
Yeah.
There's some tent companies, etc. Go to a public park.
Yeah.
Right? Get some space.
That's a good idea.
There might be some alcohol restrictions on that. We'll talk about that after the interview. So let's go here. Anybody listening from the Bearcat Hoop, kind of listening network, you guys are aware of how much we dive into our character development program called #Teams of Men. Without boring you with the history of it, Trent and Jordan would have entered as freshmen. Was that 2015? 15-16, 4-year math. And from that point on, progressed every year through different curriculum assigned to each class, all in the hopes of developing them to be the best possible version of the man they're supposed to be, that the parents want, that they want to be, that Kip has a little sprinkling of influence on as well. But a major focus of that throughout these two guys' career has been our attacking toxic masculinity and our belief that if you can subdue and reduce the amount of actions or beliefs men have in order to conform to this toxic masculine description, you'll also reduce sexual assault, domestic violence, and all the things that are kind of associated with that mindset. So that being said, every senior, and these two were no exception, has to give a capstone presentation on this topic, typically to a high school basketball team. So if you're Caleb Roberts from Salem, we try to get him with the North Salem Vikings. I think they ended up doing Sprague, though. Caleb, CJ, and Jeff Sutherland did this presentation to the Sprague basketball team here in Salem. Other captains throughout the years have done it to our pro hoop campers, ages 10 to 17. Jordan and Trent had a different audience, less humans, but maybe more impactful. So you guys pick it up from there. Who you gave it to, when you did that, how do you think that part went?
So Trent and I were actually trying to figure out who exactly we wanted to present to, because
I did give you freedom to find an audience.
You also gave us about 4 months,
yes,
and we never came to that conclusion. So the opportunity came that the NCAA Inclusion and Diversity team was coming to campus, and what better to talk about than kind of one of the projects that one of our sports teams goes through. So we had the opportunity for Yannick to come and sit in on our presentation and kind of give us feedback as what we were doing, but more or less to allow us to present exactly what we do in the program.
And when Jordan says Yannick, we're talking about Yannick Kluk, who is from the Office of Inclusion and Diversity. I think when he came, he was an intern.
Really?
And now I think he's because when we watched him, and we'll get into that in Atlanta, he was running things.
Yeah,
he was doing a lot of work, but that's who they're mentioning. TC, when I told you, hey, why don't you guys do this for this NCAA official? How'd that sit?
Honestly, personally, I thought it was going to be easier that way because it's more of like a conversation instead of a presentation to a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
And he also knew a lot of what we were talking about, so he could ask the right questions.
Maybe the audience was more receptive or knowledgeable.
Yeah. So it's easy
so you guys did it in Trenbeth?
Mm-hmm.
It was during the season, wasn't it?
It was January.
How long?
15,
The presentation?
Yeah.
15, 20.
Yeah.
Really?
No, probably 20 plus questions.
Oh, afterwards?
Yeah, we had a little conversation after.
Yeah.
And from you guys doing that, Yannick was so impressed with what these two had to offer and how you answered the questions, what you talked about. He talked with our athletic director, came back to us after the season, and said, hey, I want that as part of the curriculum, part of the presentation plan at the Inclusion and Diversity Forum. So we were lucky enough that Jordan's ticket and my ticket were paid for to go out there. The Office of Campus Life and the Office of Diversity and Inclusion with VP Jade Aguilar picked up Trent's ticket, and a whole contingent of us from Willamette. There was the three of us, VP Aguilar, Associate Athletic Director and Senior Women's Administrator Leslie Shevlin, and the head women's soccer coach Hillary Arthur. That's a mouthful of Willamette people. Mm-hmm. All of us on a plane to Atlanta. And when I said, hey, we're going to this thing, what did you guys envision? Jordan, you probably knew you had to talk at some point. Trent, you were probably relieved you didn't have to talk. But go ahead. TC, you start. What did you envision?
At first, I didn't really know what to expect when I was going there, but I thought a lot of the people there would be more like student athletes. But when we got there, it was kind of more like all different types of people, like student athletes, coaches, and administrators. And we talked about a bunch of different things that had to do with those.
Well, I was nervous because I had to talk. And Yannick said it was going to be one of the biggest panels there, so I was like, "Oh, this will be a good one." But I knew that going in there, the audience was going to be people who cared about what we had to say. So that honestly made the experience so much better.
In the lead up to that, TC we had to get all the administrative parts done for him to get his ticket, his purchase into the forum, etc. Jordan, you and I had to do a couple of call-in sessions with the panelists we were presenting with. So our session was called "Detoxing Your Team: Building a Culture in Combating Toxic Masculinity in the Locker Room." And Jordan and I were on there along with Nico Daris. Do we ever get how we say that? Mm-hmm. Nico. Just a lot of energy. A lot of energy, Nico, who does and me consulting. He does one-on-one work with professional athletes, college athletes, on how to combat their own issues with toxic masculinity. And our moderator for the panel, his name's Chris Mosier, and he's the first transgender athlete to make the U.S. Olympic team, or the U.S. He's on the U.S. World Championships teams for the triathlon. Phenomenal group. I know for me, that first call, I was like, uh-oh. Yeah. We really got to put up or shut up with what we're doing. What about you?
They're incredibly smart. They're well versed in the topic, so I was like, we'll see how this goes. But they had tons of great ideas, made the whole process and learning process of the whole session really easy to go into, because I knew that there was going to be a really good moderator, somebody who is Nico, who is incredible, and you, who have studied this for years on end. For me, I knew I was going to be going into a good environment.
TC, jump into that first session. So we get to Atlanta on a Thursday night. You guys go to Avengers Endgame, which everybody should do. We'll put spoilers on here, although they've lifted the spoilers ban on that. R.I.P. Tony. But talk about that next day, because we all had the first session. It was like 11 o'clock maybe. Well, no, let's go here first. First of all, Jordan and I are speaking at this thing. And the swag we get is a card and the schedule. And TC comes out of there with a packet of cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's stuff.
A bag.
A bag.
A wireless
charger. That
doesn't work with my phone.
Oh, okay.
You have an iPhone 3. So do I, though, so it's okay.
So we go to the first session. TC, kind of lay the what it looks like, the setting, and dive into how it began.
The very first Friday session. Yeah. So like we said, we went to Avengers, so we got to sleep in because there was nothing going on this Friday morning. But in the afternoon, is kind of after lunch, everyone was gathering around. It was in a big session. And the first talk was kind of like a super high energy, talk to a lot of other people.
Yes.
Like, get to know them personally.
And what was his name again? Dr.
Derek Greenfield? Derek Greenfield.
Yes. Great. I mean, like you said, like contagious almost. Like
Yeah.
first I was like, oh, it's one of these, like, let's get touchy-feely. But then by the middle of it, I was all in.
Yeah.
I was just, you guys talk about it.
I think he was really good in getting the whole thing started because a lot of people were nervous. It's a touchy subject. It's diversity and inclusion, so it's kind of hard to discuss. But he made like the whole process just everybody hit the ground running.
TC?
Yeah, so I think his whole thing was trying to get everybody involved and included, which is the thing of the conference. So.
Yes. I was a little nervous in the beginning, not just for myself, but if anybody knows Trent, he's not the most outgoing immediately. But he made us all leave our table because we sat down as a Willamette group. All of us were in like a little army, and I'm sure everybody else. There was 575 people there, and we all sat in our tables. If I know you and you, we're good. We'll sit here and take notes. And he was like, "No, you're out. Go." And I left. And I was like, "Oh shit." Have fun, guys. But you guys ended up meeting a lot of people in that moment. Yes.
Yeah.
What I took away from him, one of the ones that I really liked. Two of them actually. Be willing to embrace the long haul, embrace longevity, and then he wanted infusion instead of inclusion, which I thought was a really powerful. I don't know, phrases kind of catch me. What'd you guys take?
My favorite thing is the platinum rule.
Yes, explain that.
There's always the golden rule of treat people how you want to be treated, but that doesn't necessarily make sense because how you want to be treated doesn't go on. So his platinum rule is treat people the way that they want to be treated, which makes 100% more sense.
Yes.
If you treat people how they want to be treated, how they desire to be treated, there's going to be a more inclusive environment.
And on that, I took that home to the dinner table, and my kids said, "You've been saying the golden rule for my entire life." I was like, "I know, I was an idiot. I apologize." TC, what'd you take from Dr. Greenfield?
Yeah, so I think a lot of what he was trying to do in those outgoing sessions was trying to get everybody to fully be themselves, to even strangers and stuff, because you won't feel comfortable until you feel included. Yeah. And so. And there was a lot of questions you had to ask with this person. There was a segment there when you remember groups of three, we had to hold hands. Oh yeah, it was a personal story.
Yes, which you had to share this thing you would not share with your teammates for life. And the things that my group shared was oh my goodness, we're here, we're really doing it, we're really. But it ended up being really powerful.
Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the other sessions too, but I want to talk about that night after the first day, going to the National Museum of Civil Rights and Human Rights. Because for me, the food was great, right? They had beverages. But more importantly, we had full access to that place for however long we wanted to just explore. What you guys go?
There was a lot of reading, but the biggest thing for me was how they had an interactive lunch table session where black people would go and sit in at the lunch tables, and you put on headphones and could put your hands down on the table and kind of get a feel of the screaming behind you, the kicking of the chairs, and I only lasted a minute, and I would have fought, and I probably would have died.
Yes.
So it was just kind of understanding what the people had to go through in those specific settings, and how composed they had to be. Because, jeez,
I would emphasize that too, because the first time I put it on, it was surround sound. So I looked behind me. I thought the guy behind me in line was talking at first, and I was like, "Where's that noise coming from?" And then it started, and it got really hard.
And your chair got kicked. And
there was another one there that you could go, and it was similar, but it was a circular, half-circle screen. In the front of it, you knew they were showing you footage from protesters in the civil rights movement being water hosed, right? But they did the same thing with the headphones, and it went around you and almost through you. And without feeling even the intensity of it physically, you could tell this is awful, and this happened. So the whole museum was just a walk through. Is it hard to say awesome to describe it? More powerful maybe?
Yeah.
Moving, because I don't want to say I got to read all the Jim Crow laws. If you touched on a screen, it flipped to that channel or shows you old TV versions of people saying, brown-skinned people are intellectually inferior to us white. I mean, it was just so much like information downloading that just was like, I kind of feel exhausted afterwards, but glad I was there. What else from that first day? Any other say? Because I know that was like 2 hours out of our day was just over there. There was the student panel, which was pretty cool. Go ahead, talk about the student panel.
There was one kid named Kyle Richard who his story is actually incredible. We've been taught a little bit of how not to get shot, but his story
He's a football player.
Yeah, he's a football player, and he walked in on a sexual assault occurring, and kind of took care of the victim, but decided to go and confront the assaulter, and got shot in both legs. This was at the end of summer. He made a full recovery and played in the second game,
right?
Which I don't even know how that's even possible. But his story is that he's gone on through that and has been reached out to by tons and tons of victims through social media. His story exploded. I think he was on Bleacher Report, and he's made such a difference for high school kids, and near his college he's gone and talked to other universities, I believe he said. So his was crazy.
Did you guys ever end up meeting up with him at any point? Introduce yourselves?
No,
He was almost like a mini celebrity after that.
Yeah, he was.
Not that he was like the best of anybody. There was a whole panel of students from the NCAA across divisions, across genders, that had just done and created amazing things through their own belief in everything we believe in. But his story, I think, is the most easy to remember. Like, this dude took 2 bullets. TC, who else from that panel did you have stuff on? I know the Oregon State gymnast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Damn Worth It was her thing, and she talked about mental health. There was also an openly gay D1 football player.
Right.
Yeah.
And just like that, and like you guys mentioned, the cross-section of people in there. It wasn't an audience of all athletes, but it wasn't also an audience of just the olds that run schools. It was all a big group of different ages, genders, positions. There were some coaches, there were some ADs, there were some campus presidents. You would like to see more about all of that. But it was definitely an interesting audience for people to present to. And then after those first couple big sessions, you had the chance to go out to individual segments. And I think we had talked about, let's not all go to the same one. Let's try to get as much information from different sessions as we can. Give me 1 or 2 things from a session, or maybe 2 sessions, just the title that you thought were really like, man, this is stuff I didn't know, or stuff I want to take back to my life.
I think we went to a Preventing Campus Sexual Violence session where, I don't know what she was. She's the director of something at Air Force, and she would go around and talk to different teams about sexual violence, and she'd have awkward conversations with teens. But I think the one thing that she was trying to do is just get people to open up and ask like knucklehead questions so they can learn more. Yeah,
for sure. Scoops?
I went to that same session with Trent. That's the topic that I'm most interested in. One of the things that they went through the whole process of it, and then some girl raised her hand and told the panel that she had been sexually assaulted, and that the school went through the process that you don't want to go through. They told her that she would be ostracized, that there was really no point.
Basically trying to make her not report.
Exactly. And the whole point was trying to destigmatize sexual assault and kind of change it from victim blaming to actually going after the perpetrator.
When you guys were at that one, I was at the Title IX, like fine art of applying Title IX. If you hear Title IX and you're an athlete or a coach listening, like most of the time, I think I was guilty of this. You associate Title IX with ways you're getting screwed, like, oh, just because of Title IX, I can't do X. The thing that I took away that we put into action immediately, and we all talked about it, and we got it done. We have in our Lower and Hinkle Gymnasium, we've been lucky enough over the years to have raised money to get banners through and billboards throughout Salem with our guys on it. And we probably had 7 of those that we've got a copy of and put up downstairs in Hinkle Gymnasium. It's like a kind of family photo album. And throughout that time, the women's team here that we have a great relationship with, they had chosen, that's cool. We're gonna do something else. We don't need to be on there. I thought that was enough to say, okay, Peg didn't want to do it. That's the women's head coach. I can put those up. It's not a big deal. But after attending this Title IX, attending this conference in general, even that visualization of, the men must be more important here, we took those damn things down. We had to. There's a better way to do it. We can get the same size banners and just put ourselves, the women's program, and volleyball up downstairs. But that was literally like a call to action for me at this thing, a small thing I can do to get more in line with what's right. Not just like, oh, the law says. What about what's right? Let's fast forward, okay? Our presentation, Jordan, and TC, we wanted to make sure TC was softball questionings to us, but we didn't have to. So we go, I would say at the very beginning, I was nervous. Not like game nervous, but like maybe more anxious. And then when we got in there and the crowd before we started was kind of sparse, I was a little pissed off. Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
And then, go ahead, progress.
Yeah, so we kind of went through introductions, and like I was looking down and I looked up, and then every seat was taken.
Yeah.
It was packed. So
It started off as Trent in the front looked like the only reporter interviewing us.
Yeah.
And then it was. I think it ended up being 155, 160 people in that conference room. The format we won't bore you with, but I was really energized just because not only, like Jordan mentioned, the people we were with were so amazing. Like Chris Mosier, our moderator, has his own display in the Center of Civil and Human Rights. Like that's how big of a pioneer he is. And then Nico has just been doing this long enough that he's really, really good at grabbing attention to the topic. But I thought the questions made me think a little bit. Do you remember any of the questions, TC, anything that stood out while we were up there besides making fun of us and how we looked?
Like the question people asked
Yeah,
the audience? I think there was a good one about music. Right?
Oh, yeah. Recap that one.
So I think we were talking, and there was a lot of talk about like language and what language you can use. And then she asked, well, what type of music are you allowing people to listen to?
Right.
And Kip's decided to take that and then deflected it on me. So, yeah, but Jordan would love to answer that one. I'm like, oh, thank you.
It's called delegating, Jordan.
Yeah.
I thought it was good though. It did make me think.
Yeah.
Because and I don't think I don't want us to try to portray to everybody. And I'm sure you two don't fall in this boat either. Like we're not saying we act perfectly every single moment of the day, but I don't know if we had ever had that discussion as a team.
No.
There was maybe frustrations with warm-ups getting edited.
Yeah, but it was the school kind of checking us.
Right.
Like, is that really what you should be playing?
Right. And then we were like, oh. Okay.
Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Cool.
Exactly. I was taken back because Jordan did a good job of telling a story of one of the recruits. Throughout different times you have recruits on campus, and our guys are always kind of checking guys and seeing if they fit. And Jordan mentioned a kind of a sexist comment a recruit had made in the locker room. And in our locker room, it doesn't play well. In other locker rooms without this background in education, it probably does play fine. And then I had said, well, yeah, that kid's not going to be a Bearcat, which he isn't. But I thought the question when one of the people in the audience raised their hand and said, Coach, I appreciate the stance you guys take, but where do you draw the line between saying no to somebody like they're a finished product and bringing somebody in that needs the education? What do you guys think of that?
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to look at it, and it's probably something that you don't think about.
Right.
I would say like that comment wasn't like too much because I feel like they're not too far gone where they can learn. They just might not understand things.
Yeah.
But also just trying to look for people who are just maybe generally like good and like trying to learn.
How, when you guys were hosts, because like when you're seniors, I don't make you do hosting as much because you're out of here. You don't have as much to worry about the incomers. But when you guys were in the hosting age, how did you get to know recruits, knowing we did this? Was it seeing them in situations? Were you like the interrogator? What do you think?
I feel like we just kind of threw them in a comfortable environment and then let them be themselves.
Show their colors a little bit?
Yeah, and if it was poor, it was poor.
I posed this same question Monday to the returners in our last character development, and I said, what do you guys think of that? And it was the same, like, I think, Jordan, it's like, we both kind of smiled when she answered the question because it was like a got us moment. Like, oh. But there's like, what is the amount of information we need to compile to make a judgment, but also considering we believe in the program and we can educate and help you improve, what you're supposed to do. It's almost like the balance of, hey, this person's jumper isn't great. I think we can coach it and it'll be fine, or it's too far gone. Yeah. That's not a shooter in our conference. Yeah, make that equation. Is that kind of similar?
And it's all, you also have to judge, like, are they going to disregard everything you say, or is even if they're are they willing to try and learn?
Yes.
Because if you say no, like he said that, you say no, you can't come here. It's like, oh, that guy's not going to get changed. You know?
Right. So talk about the after our presentation, because it went well. We had a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it. Got to share a bunch. afterwards, we were in there for another 30, 40 minutes. You, Trent, as well, because we made sure we gave Trent his credit for participating as well. But talk about the people coming up to you. Who were they? What were they asking, saying? Talk, because you guys had basically a receiving line, myself too, Nico as well, afterwards.
A lot of it was just good job. Waiting to talk to Kip or one of the other panelists.
Yeah.
But
well, we had a couple people who came up and talked to us from like SAC members from other schools, who kind of were talking about like, how can I implement this? Like, how do I understand the information? How do I implement it? So it was kind of going through and just, she had to go back and introduce the topic to her SAC members because it wasn't really something that they had talked about.
Yeah.
But just kind of making sure and getting those conversations to happen with the athletes is kind of the first step.
Yeah.
I think there was one woman who was trying to have these same conversations with a group of guys, but she had to get a guy to go and do it.
Oh, because they wouldn't listen to her.
Well, she was scared. She was asking if we thought it would work with a girl.
But I mean, we did it with Carly before. And
right.
Those are like probably the best conversations we've had.
Right.
So.
And when Jordan says Carly, that's Carly Roner, who used to be the campus advocate here at Willamette University. She now works for the state, doing some of the same work across campuses. And there was a lot of times where, number one, Carly's a professional at these presentations, so I got the hell out of the way. But number two, she also advised me, like, hey, Kip, you need to leave so the guys can be honest. And I was like, are you sure? Like, you're going to be the lone woman in there. And she's like, I can handle it. Get out of here. It's not my first rodeo. But you guys are saying those were good setups.
Yeah, and it also is different when your coach isn't in there. Like, there's obviously biases that occur when statements are made, but if you're able to have that free-flowing conversation without any, judgments, it's easier.
I was both encouraged, like I was very invigorated to have so many people come up to me and you guys afterwards wanting to know how they can continue the work and get what we do on their campuses. It was also very disheartening to hear the stories of how other places don't exist the way we do. And I think we had all talked about this on the flight out. Like, this is going to be a great thing because all the people there are into this like us, like really believe what we believe, but you take a step out of the hotel and it's different. It could be different at Waffle House. It was different on Twitter that weekend with how people react and talk. So in my follow-ups, since we got back, I've followed up with a bunch of universities and people we met there, and even what I'm sending them, they're sending back, oh, they don't want that. They want it different. They want the format to be easier. And it's almost like, this isn't an easy topic. If it was easy, we would have solved this thing in the 1300s and we'd all be moving on. So for you guys, knowing you don't have to deal with Kip's limitations on this anymore. It's not my program that you have to follow anymore. What were takeaways for you going forward? Did you go back and talk to the roommates? Did you go back and talk to the significant others, parents? What are takeaways? TC?
I think there was one talk near the beginning. Well, so a lot of it applied to outside just basketball and stuff. Like the crucial conversations was a good one because that applied to like work, basketball, even like relationships with people and stuff. Just kind of trying to make an environment that's open and make people allow them to be like truly themselves so they can speak openly and stuff.
Yeah. For sure.
I agree 100%. I've talked to my roommates, I've talked to my parents, I've talked to my girlfriend, and they've all kind of like questioned some of the things, and I've kind of had to go into exactly what they were saying. Yeah. But kind of, it's a learning experience for everybody.
I took notes. I can't remember if I showed you guys in real time. You guys know me. I like having stats and figures, and so when I'm usually at these conferences, I'm like, okay, that application to the Bearcats is. The application to the coaches is. This is the first time I actually did application to the Ioane children, my own 3 offspring, because I was like, what? All this great information, like Trent said, is really like life lessons. It's not just for your freaking basketball players, although I love you guys. And I got 3 mini-me's running around that kind of needed some of this. So we've been slowly but surely trying some of these, like I said, the platinum rule versus the golden rule. But the Crucial Conversations one, shout out, there's a book on that same topic that I'm reading currently. And you guys can think about this too. Like, you imagine what the skills you would have had as a sophomore coming up to talk to me, or as a freshman talking to a professor with some of those same things from Crucial Conversations, or with the girlfriends, the moms, your roommates, thinking about fighting about rooms and etc. J-Mo comes to mind. Like, how do you have a conversation with J-Mo?
Well, he just told us that Australia doesn't exist. So.
Oh, no!
Yeah. It's actually Chile.
The earth is flat. It's fine. But I agree 100%. The crucial conversations, that's actually one of the things we're taking forward to try to share with the rest of the coaches in the department, because that's part of my job is, hey, Kip, you don't get to hoard all the information to yourself. What's useful, I think that's pretty useful, and here's how you need to speak in tough conversations that need to be had. Final thoughts, takeaways. I thought it was interesting. There's like careers in this. Like there's careers in the work. They're probably not as well paying as some others, but some of these, like these are presidents of things. They're in charge of different corporate ladders. I saw a thing on LinkedIn yesterday that was the director of diversity and inclusion at Nike.
Really?
Would you imagine now, 21st century, a lot of companies got to have that. So that part for me was an interesting takeaway. Like, hey, there's probably resources in there for that.
Yeah.
What about for you guys?
I mean, you can kind of just look at Nico.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, he does it on the very, very large scale, and his suit was fire.
Yes, it was, and he was flying out somewhere in the sun to meet a professional player and golf,
and been golfing the whole trip.
Yes,
so.
Torn labrum and rotator.
Yeah, you guys were universally shoulder injury guys as well, but I was super impressed with you guys. The Willamette contingent, obviously the university is impressive and people, but you guys were dialed in, and I think it's something that I can't do it every year, but biannually. Bi-yearly, if that's a word. It is now. I would like the cat. Imagine if you could have done this going into your senior year, and what you could have helped me create for the team going forward.
Definitely.
Do you think it's something you would have been ready for at a younger age, or would it help that you guys were you were already well on your path of maturity as seniors?
I mean, definitely towards the later end of the years.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of the things that we talked about and learned there, we touched on a little bit with Teams of Men, which was very helpful, but, I mean...
There's also a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you feel going in, did you feel nervous? I did, and I created the program, right? I felt like, do I really know what the hell I'm talking about? Did you feel some of that just in the, being around and mingling?
Yeah.
I mean, the bias one got me a lot.
Yeah. A lot of the feedback from the other Willamette contingent was it really opened my eyes to me a little bit, which is, you guys have been great at that. On the basketball court, you always got to self-check, I had 6 turnovers. This is bad. I got to do something about it.
I do that a lot.
Unfortunately, both of you know about that. But yeah, that was a great, anything I think that gets you reflecting and thinking about what you can do going forward. But we appreciate you guys sharing with us. Both these two have social media presence. You're on Instagram, TC?
No, he doesn't post.
He's like Nico. And he doesn't have anything.
Yeah, he has an Instagram. He just lurks.
He just lurks.
I never post.
Scoops, what's yours? People want to follow you.
Jordak with a Q Jenkins.
On both?
On Instagram.
Okay,
I need to switch that on Twitter too.
Okay. What is it? What's going on there behind the times? But we had a lot of great follows. I'll try to post some of those in the final screens here on the YouTube channel. Some of the people that we found that you can follow that are in the industry working. Bearcat Hoop, where they were, where are they now? Series 2019.
Driving, dribble, one, double clutches, left side barbell for 3. Here's Son Sutton, great move to the hoop, spun, and he just fooled his defender.